How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massa Beer Reviews back with a little bit more homebrew. A little bit more Gilded Skull up in this piece in the form of their Black Cape. This is a bourbon barrel aged, blended Russian Imperial Stout that I am chomping at to dive into. I love barrel aged homebrew, and like I said, if you watch my unboxing and you watch my previous homebrew review from Neil from Gilded Skull, the first beer was a petite saison, and that really did me proper. And I was really chomping at the bit to dive into this because it's so opposite end of the spectrum. He wrote me a big note, and he gave me a glass. I do not have the note in front of me. I do not have that glass because it's dirty, and I want to just do this. So that's how we're going to roll. But like I said, it's a Russian Imperial Stout, bourbon barrel aged, but it's also blended. I don't know what he means by blended. Maybe he can actually chime in the comments down below, or somebody who's in the know can let me know what's what as far as the blending goes, whether it's two different barrels or you actually blended the base with something else. But as far as Russian Imperial Stouts or stouts in general goes, that, my friends, be motor oil. I mean, some of my favorite labels in history of mankind are homebrew because there is no labels. That's the best. As far as that beer goes, yeah, you could run an aircraft carrier on that motherfucker. Yeah, look at that. Just dark as dark could be. About a eighth of a pinky finger of mocha colored head. But I'm really impressed that it's actually sticking around. You're talking about a blended homebrew barrel aged, and it still has a bit of carbonation going on. So that in of itself is a pretty cool trick. Let's even get a nose. That has really nice barrel character to it. I mean, that's one of the things, more often than not, when you talk to somebody who does homebrew, they're like, oh, here's a barrel-aged... I shouldn't say barrel-aged, because I'm not trying to say people are being a little bit kind of false when they talk about what they make and how they make it. It's just more of a kind of wording thing where they have it's a bourbon barrels or wood barrel-aged or wood component or whatever. A lot of times they're staves or chips or anything like that. This has that nice smoky chariness you typically get from a nice rich barrel, and a big bourbon component, but that's not nearly as hot as you would think it would be for how vibrant that bourbon comes off. Now, it could be portion of the Russian Imperial Stout coming through, because what I'm doing is I'm getting gobs of cordial cherry in here, getting a soft kind of chocolate, nothing over the top, nothing super milky. It's more of a kind of semi-sweet kind of dark chocolate. But there's this big, huge cherry component. Again, bourbon is absolutely lending a hand to that, but you can get that cherry note a lot of times from a really well-done, proper Russian Imperial Stout. So it's probably both of those worlds kind of melding together. That honestly smells absolutely like a fantastic bourbon barrel-aged stout, homebrew otherwise. Let's dive in. Cheers. Okay. I like that. It's not sweet. Now, Russian Imperial Stouts shouldn't be overly sweet. More often than not, they're kind of bittering. And this one definitely has that. Here's where it kind of just gets a little bit askew for me, is that I think a lot of that bitter and a lot of that dryness is coming from an oak addition. And I think there's a little bit too much oak tannin in here to really kind of make me go gaga for it. Not that I want the beer to be overly sweet. I just want it to be slightly less kind of drying and oaky here. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm actually probably being a little bit too tough on it because I'm kind of grading against kind of commercial beers. But it's thick. It's not super thick. It's not 5 C's. It's like 2 C's thick. But it has this nice roast to it. It adds a little bit of bittering to it. You have this kind of hot presence. Herbal, spicy, nothing too crazy. That's adding a bitterness to it. There's chocolate in there. That cherry thing, which I thought was going to be absolutely out of this world, gigantic, is not nearly as big as you would think in a taste. I'm okay with that. It's nice to kind of play back and forth between that dark chocolate and the taste and that more cherry in the nose. Go back and forth. Take a huff, take a sip. It kind of works for me. But then that oak kind of comes into play. So you get a soft barrel char. I'm all game for that. But the way this oak comes off, it's just a little bit too drying for me to kind of go gaga over. Again, super tasty beer. There's a bit of oxidation going on in it too. You know, it's homebrew. I believe this is an older version of this beer. Again, like he said, it won a regional competition up there in New England. I'm assuming this is sat in a bottle for a bit, so there's a bit of oxidation going on. But honestly, you're talking about a bourbon barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout that I assume has time in it. I'm assuming there's going to be oxidation, so again, that's got a big negative for me. I actually appreciate a little bit of oxidation. Some of my bigger beers, and it's tasty. I like it. It's absolutely one of the better barrel-aged Imperial stouts that I've had, homebrew, and even probably commercial-wise, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just that balance of that bittering and dryness. It tends to be a little bit bigger than where I wanted to be. Again, if it was a little bit sweeter, that would balance it off, but it's not so much that I want the beer to be a little bit sweeter. I want that dryness, that oak tannin to be drawn back a little bit and kind of make that beer be a little bit more kind of, I don't want to necessarily want to balance. You're talking about a double-digit ABV Imperial Stout beer. You're not looking for balance in here. You're looking for fucking hair on fire stuff. But it drinks well. It drinks nice. It's nice and rounded, which leads me to believe it does have a little bit more time on it, and it's really tasty stuff. Again, probably one of the better barrel-aged homebrews that I've had. I mean, as of late, I can probably think of maybe one. The one I had from Brewster's down in Florida just really did it for me. That was more of like a barley wine, English barley wine, kind of harvest ale style vibe to it, but this is pretty good stuff. And absolutely a fucking pleasure to drink. Let's put it that way. Just that dryness gets a little bit too big for me to go gaga over. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little homebrew jammer. Hope you've been enjoying the homebrew reviews. Thank you very much, Neil, for sending this off. If you want to check out Gilded Skull and his story, you're more than welcome. If you type in Gilded Skull into the Googs, you can find them, but I'll put some links down below. And check him out. He has a Kickstarter trying to make his brewery kind of get off the ground, and if you watch my other reviews, you already know all this stuff. So if you're new to the game, type it in the Googs, click below, figure out what's what, and there you go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our homebrew review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of homebrew right now. So we'll see you next time. Cheers.